My name is Migu Ku. Today we are covering the final part of the Arduino Pace Clock series. This video will discuss the logic behind the wiring and code, as well as the modifications of the library to enable the Pace Clock to run in a normal fashion. Also, we will be also discussing how to actually build the clock yourself from materials that you can buy from Amazon for a cheaper price. As you may know, it is possible for two different displays to run side by side by sending different signals. However, this would require the modification of the clock and latch wires to enable proper timing. With all this, however, the Arduino is simply not powerful enough to run this command. There is a workaround to this problem. We can have each display a different digit based on the colored signal that we send. So in this diagram, you can see how the left display only receives the red signal and the right display only receives a blue signal. By doing this, we can see how the red signal connects to the first display, and we'll be able to display the color red since the red signal is connected to the Arduino. And this also applies to the right display, where we can see that the right display displays a digit in blue color because the blue signal is connected to the Arduino. However, this will not be very bright, as we know that white is the brightest color, so we want to achieve that. And to achieve that, what we have to do is connect all three signals of the red, green, blue out of the display from the red signal that comes out of the Arduino. As you know, RGB makes white. So this is how you make white for the first display, and the same applies for the right display as well. However, there's a problem with this. While the second display displays just fine as shown here, the first display will actually override and cause an overlap of both the second and first display signals, as shown here, as the 1 is overlapped with the 2. We do not want to get this, so there is a modification that we have to do in the Adafruit library in order to achieve this. Alright. So once we are in the CPP file, which is in the RGB matrix panel library that is required for this display, we're going to scroll down all the way to lines 198 and 211 to modify the code. Just 2 lines, it's that simple. So here, where it says PTR width times 2 and the following letters, all you have to do is comment that out, and same thing for line 211 here, all you have to do is just comment that out. So what this is doing is, originally, when it receives a signal, it was going to delete the color and place a new color on top of it. But by overriding this, we can ensure that the red color is not deleted so that the blue color doesn't go on top of it. So this is all that's required for modifying the library, and then next we'll move on to the code. Alright, please follow along for the code. I'll be mostly typing silently, but I'll be explaining some the reasons why some code is like that. So, for this code, we need to get the RGB matrix panel library. So that's why we're including it over here. We also need the Adafruit GFX library, as well as we're going to include a font in this. So we're using Free Sans 9 size 7B. Alright, next is the main part of the code. We're going to run 2 for loops. One is inside each other, and this is how it's going to display the numbers. So what this is gonna do is, while the first for loop is in 1, the second for loop, inner for loop, is gonna run through all the digits of the 10 side. So while the first digit is displaying 0, the right display, which is this for loop, is gonna display 0 through 9. And that's how it works for each individual for loop. The next thing we want to do is we want to sync this up with the actual seconds. So based on testing, I found out that I have to put a delay of 853.5 seconds. This is milliseconds. Then after each display of numbers, we want to clear the screen so that it does not overlap the numbers. After this, after you upload your code, make sure that your board selected is Mega, and make sure that your COM port is also selected. Your code should be running. Please let me know down in the comments if we have any questions or errors regarding the code. And now we're going to move on to the building process. Okay, so now we are on to the building process, and I'll first discuss the materials that you need. So first thing we need is a very large box that will be able to store the 2 displays in and be able to protect it in case of falls or any other damage. So the box that I've gone for is this one on Amazon. It's quite big and it's able to hold both 10-inch displays side by side. Next thing we also need is a wooden board. I would say it doesn't really matter what size you guys are at, as you can always cut it up, but I recommend this size. And the reason why we need the board is actually later when we put the displays in, we're actually going to mount the displays onto the wooden board so that it is raised off so that the displays are flat against the very front of the box and not on the very back of the box. Next, I recommend some Gorilla Glue. You can nail the Arduino and the displays directly into the box itself. But for simplicity, I decided to go with super glue, which I think works fine. And then another thing that you need is a power cord extension splitter. And this is so that one half will be powering the Arduino, and the other half is for the power supply for the displays. Keep in mind that for the Arduino, you need a USB-B cable with a USB adapter to plug into these outlets. So how is this going to work? So what you're going to do is you're going to cut the wooden board up to your desired size, nail the displays onto that wooden board, and in my case I glued the wooden board onto the very back of the box. The very back of the box. And the reason why I did this is so that when I put a lid over the box, and in this case I'm going to use an acrylic panel to cover the front of the box. the displays would be very close to the very front of the box so that there's no glare or any distortion. Another thing that you're gonna need is some feet for the box. Now wood would do fine, but in my case I just got creative and I 3D printed some feet that I glued to the bottom of this box, and that will work also. And then after that, with the power supply mentioned in the previous video, you need to find an outlet splitter for that and plug the AC and DC sections to their respective connectors. After that, you can super glue the power supply onto the back of the box, as well as glue the Arduino onto the back of the box, and simply plug everything in. With this, your display should be running, and please let me know if there are any questions. Thank you.